Alright, in this video we're going to talk about why I rate movies the way I rate them, what my star system means, what some of my assumptions are. I want to highlight an email I got from a great viewer named Joseph who asked me this very question. This email will give us a way to get into the question of how do we rate anything? Should we rate any movie? What are the assumptions by which we do rate things? Joseph writes to me and he says, "Now, I've learned a lot about films thanks to your channel." Thank you very much, Joseph. Well, I have one question I want to know your thoughts on. I'm in the process of perfecting my rating system and would like your thoughts on something. Do you use a specific scale to rate films? As in, have a criteria for a film rated 4 out of 5 stars or 5 out of 5 stars. I'm in the middle of perfecting my ratings and would like to know more about your process when it comes to rating a film. I hope you don't mind me asking. Well, no, I don't mind you asking. In fact, everybody should be asking why any critics rate anything or qualify anything the way they do. I mean, we know that art in a way is intersubjective is the word I would use, and every single person who's rating, talking about art, whether it's video games or movies or TV, you name it, paintings, it doesn't matter. Everybody has presuppositions, things they assume they don't announce, maybe they're not even conscious of. They have standards. And they have biases. They have life experience biases that feed into why they rate something, why they evaluate things the way they do. But most of the time, or almost none of the time, do you ever hear the critic say, "and my assumptions and presuppositions are." You almost never get a list of those. You have to read somebody or watch somebody on YouTube a lot in order to understand their preferences and biases. Now, in this video, I won't discuss that many of mine. I just want to let you know, yeah, you should be asking, who are these people who are rating these things and why are they saying what they're saying? What are their assumptions? That is a great question. As far as a star rating goes, I use a 5-star rating actually just because I'm on letterboxd.com. Check me out, look at the profile, and they have a 5-star system. So I'm just sticking with that and bringing that over to YouTube. But there's a giant question really whether we should at all use a quantitative system for art. Should we use a point system, a star system, or Siskel and Ebert did in a very basic reductive way, thumbs up and thumbs down. And just so we all know this up front, I strongly believe that art is too complex to be reduced down to a number. Yes, I do it myself as a shorthand way to signal something to other people. It's kind of like a price signal in a way, but we all know that art is too inherently complex for probably any one of us to understand it all or comprehend in total. And so the star system, a point system, is a personal reaction to, in a moment of. I think it's really key to notice. So I would say you cannot, to answer your question, Joseph, perfect a rating system. The reason is I'm a human being going through time who's limited in terms of what I understand, my comprehension, and I also know that I grow and change and develop over time. So when I think I have a rating system perfected, it's going to change. I'm either going to question whether I should have a rating system or change the way how I rate movies or disagree with myself in the past. It's just impossible to really perfect a rating system in any way. One of my favorite critics, Roger Ebert, mentioned him a lot on this channel. He tended to speak out against a star system that he himself used and was foisted upon him by his newspaper. He used a 4-star rating system. And nevertheless, I personally always found his 4-star system helpful because I knew when he gave something 3 out of 4 stars, he meant it was a pretty good movie. Some people should check it out. It is probably a little bit better than being mediocre. It has some rich qualities to it, but it's not the greatest movie ever made. And I had to read into his review then as to determine whether I would like the movie like he did or whether I actually would hate it even though he gave it 3 out of 4 stars. So reading something or watching something in depth and listening is a key aspect. You can't just give a rating and then have nothing to go along with it. I think for other people to understand you, you need to have some writing or some, here, like in this case of this video, some video going along with the rating to help others out. Because what is a rating but an act of communication? To answer the question more directly, why 5 stars, what does that mean? 5 stars is a great movie. I think it qualifies as great under a number of possible criteria, ways to watch a movie. You can watch a movie for its technical aspects, the way it grows and develops out of film history and becomes its own thing, its own unique art object. You can look at it morally, you can look at it philosophically, you can look at it economically, you can look at it psychologically. There's like 100 different ways to look at a movie. And so I'm thinking when I rate a movie, one, it gave me, myself, that thrill inside me. It hypnotized me. It gave me a new vision for reality. Two, it's aesthetically amazing in some way, shape, or form. It's really interesting topically. And I think a great number of people could come at it from a variety of perspectives and write or talk about it. I think the movie opens up discussion on a number of levels and blends together a number of aspects of reality uniquely. And so that's, it's always a personal judgment, of course, but to me, that's what a 5-star movie is. Conversely, a half-star movie, that's the best you can do is half-star in Letterboxd. To me, that is technically awful, one of the worst movies ever made, or it's just a terrible effort, technically, whether it's sound or visuals or acting or all the above. Or it could be morally awful. Like, it isn't totally abysmal. It offends me in every single way as a human being. I think it's sending the wrong message. It's got false delusions, and yet it's propping them up as great ideas. And that's what Ebert himself reserved the half-star rating for, usually for movies that were despicable or deplorable in some way, shape, or form. The other thing I do is I cut things off at 3.5 stars. So at 3.5 stars, and really on Letterboxd, I'm writing to myself, and my ratings are actually for my future self. 3.5 stars means at the time I watched the movie, I thought, this movie is interesting and it's worth studying or maybe rewatching. So that's my rewatchable cutoff. 3.5 stars. 3 stars is a pretty good, slightly better than mediocre movie, but I don't feel the need to watch it again. So that's what I do for myself. And 3.5 stars. And then you get 3.5 to 5 stars. Well, what's 4 stars versus 4.5? Those are gradations of excellence. So 4.5 is better than 4, and 4 is better than 3.5, and so on and so forth. And of course, this is under my experience. I'm not an objective critic, but I do think I can kind of see how I would write a paper on the psychology of this movie, or the economics of this movie, or the social science of this movie, or the educational philosophy of this movie, and so on and so forth. So if I see a number of aspects in a movie that could be teased out and can illuminate somebody's understanding of something, then those are my gradations. I think a 4-star movie does that better than maybe a 3.5-star movie would. If we look at 2.5 stars, that's right in the middle. Now, mathematically, it's not quite. 2.75 is the mathematical middle of 5 stars and a half star, but whatever. I think of 2.5 stars as absolutely a mediocre movie. It's got maybe a couple good qualities, but mostly it's middling. It's not saying anything new. It might be cliched. It might not be adding anything to film history. If I left the movie for 2 minutes or 5 minutes and I came back and I missed nothing, that's what a 2.5-star movie to lower is to me. And so I think a lot of movies are going to be 2.5 stars. To me, they're all middling or average unless they show themselves as special, either on the high or low end of the spectrum. And then anything from 1 star to 2 stars, I'm mixed on what that means. That's just different gradations of bad movie. I didn't like it to me. And so that's really my whole scope of my star system. However, you should know, again, on this perfection thing, I have changed ratings before. It doesn't actually happen that often to me, but certainly between my childhood and right now as a 40-something man, between my teenage years and now between my 20-somethings and now, I have changed my views on a number of movies. I've either gained new insights and been able to see a movie in new ways and appreciate it for what it is, and then agree with the masses of the critics on the movie, or the opposite, where I loved a movie. I was in love with it. It was a great movie at some point in time for me. It gave me a lot of insight, and now I watch and I think, yeah, that's pretty simple. Yeah, that's really cliched, or it's too basic, or there's something about it that's middling for me as a middle-aged guy. One thing you say about what I do is right. This is what I strongly recommend to anybody. Is Joseph says, I admire about your writings you don't hold back on what you have to say. That's generally true. I really am not really holding back too much, if anything at all. And I'll say what I want in the videos or in my writing. But I also acknowledge that other people have their points of view, and I'm trying oftentimes to be kind about that. I think any good critic does this and not beholden to some kind of social discourse, any kind of political correctness, any kind of vanity standard. They're not worried about those. They want to say what's honestly on their mind and their feelings, and then try to elucidate that with describing the artwork. I think a good critic has to do that sort of thing. and be honest with themselves no matter what other people might say about that honesty. That would be true in rating a movie for sure. So if I give something 1 star that most people are giving 4 or 5 stars, okay, I'm going to draw a lot of trolls to myself. I know that's going to be a problem, but I got to be daring and do it. And I recommend that to everybody. I think no matter who you are, you will disagree with some movies that most people say are great, that most critics say are great, that is received wisdom's greatest movie ever made. You will disagree with some of those, and you ought to be able to describe why you think they're so not so good for you. So I think the key to criticism, one big key, is explaining why you think or feel what you think to other people. The rating is one thing, but to say why the rating is what it is and explain and explore that a little bit more helps people understand not just where you're coming from, but also helps them watch movies a little bit better. Because if they see your point of view and your point of view has some validity to it, then they can incorporate that into their own viewing experience, will be enhanced, be bigger, wider, and more open. And I really like the why explanations, not just adjective criticisms. I feel this way, this movie made me feel bored, or the ratings, but why people think what they think and feel what they feel. Yeah, it will take some courage and guts to do so, because sometimes you are going to go against the masses, but I think that's our job, and that's what makes life fun, and that's what makes us idiosyncratic human beings. So I hope this makes some sense out of why I give a movie 2.5 stars or 5 stars as a new review on YouTube and on Letterboxd. You can check out my Substack for my writing, my Letterboxd profile, and so on. I wonder what questions you have, Joseph and anybody else, on what I just said, and what other kinds of questions would you have for me? What would you like me to explain? I mean, I have to explain some of my preferences and biases, which indeed they're underneath some of my writing and reviews, but I don't really say them that often, just because I don't need to. And most people don't do that. So anyway, what are my preferences and biases? What other questions you have for me? Let me know in the comments. Please subscribe to this channel for more great content. Thank you. Have a great day.